I'm going to hit the record button here so that you'll be able to access it afterwards. We do these this particular series, we do the second Tuesday of the month with the Small Business Administration. And the way it's structured is we have a representative from the Small Business Administration, and 99 times out of 100, it's David Castaneda. And he's here to join us, and he'll give us about 15 minutes or so about what the latest thing is going on with the resiliency issues that the SBA is helping us get through, followed by Zack Barton, who's the CEO of Barton Interactive, and he'll be talking about cybersecurity. And with that, I'm going to give it over to you, Mr. Castaneda.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Is that correct?
Sounds good. You sound
good. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is David Castaneda. I'm with the Small Business Administration. We're a federal agency, so we are located in every state and also in Puerto Rico and Guam. Today, I'll be talking about our economic relief programs to help small businesses through the economic downturn due to COVID. Also, I just want to mention with SBA, there's other resources that are available to help small businesses. I'll touch on that real quick. And that is our resource partners, which is the Small Business Development Center, which is hosting this webinar for us today, and the Women's Business Center, SCORE, and the Veteran Business Outreach Center. So nationwide, SBA is the largest funder of all those resource partners that provide free business consulting services and a lot of good webinars currently throughout the United States to help entrepreneurs and small business owners expand and grow their business. The other thing is government contracting opportunities. So the SBA is also a very strong advocate of helping small businesses get into the contracting world to expand their market, help sell their products and services to the federal government. So we have free assistance to do that, and to help businesses grow in that area. So those are the other areas that the SBA does. Today, I'm going to talk more about our loan programs and economic relief programs. And just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm up in the Sierra Mountains near Nevada City, Grass Valley area. I'm using my phone as a hotspot. Every now and then I do drop off on webinars. So if that happens, I'll try to get back on. But if the next speaker, which is Zack, if I do fall off, he might go ahead and start going, then I'll eventually get back on, okay, just to let you know. If you have any questions, you can probably type that into the question on your screen. That way you can we can get to your questions. And I'll be here to the end of the entire presentation. So if you have any questions for me afterwards, I'll be here to answer those. So again, we're going to go ahead and talk about the economic relief programs that are here to help the small businesses through the downturn due to COVID. So again, currently we're in the American Rescue Plan Act that this particular administration has enacted. So these are the different programs that the SBA was tasked to do. Some of them have run their course and are closed. Some of them are still ongoing, and that you can still participate in them. So for example, the Paycheck Protection Program, that one was a really good program. It's a forgivable loan program. That one did close on May 31st. Now, if you are one of those business owners that received one of those Paycheck Protection Program loans, we are also helping individuals with the loan forgiveness part. And that's the part you have to fill out forms and give back to the lender so that loan is forgiven and you don't have to pay it back. So we are still helping individuals on that portion of it. The next one is the debt relief on SBA 7A and 504 and microloans. That one's still ongoing. It's a good one. We'll talk about that one. The next one is the EIDL, that's Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That one is still ongoing, and that will end at the end of this year. And so that one's still going. The next one, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, that one is still ongoing, and we'll talk about that. One that just recently closed is the Restaurant Revitalization, which closed on the 24th of May. So those are, showing the whole spectrum of the programs that we did have. Okay, so for those businesses that did get a Paycheck Protection loan, we're in the forgiveness part of it, and this just talks about how those dollars can be used. That way you can get forgiveness on that loan through the SBA, through the federal government, so you don't have to repay it back. So if you need assistance with that, we can definitely help you with that at no cost. The SBDC has teams of consultants that can help with that. So you could talk with Mr. Walker at the SBDC, and he can hook you up with consultants to help you with the loan forgiveness part if that's something you need help with. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that part because some businesses might not have it and might not be information for you. But if you do have it, connect with your SBDC if you need assistance with the loan forgiveness part. Here's the program that is ongoing right now. So SBA has our microloan program. These are loans from $5,000 to $50,000. We do work with nonprofit lenders to do these loans on behalf of the SBA. So SBA gives those nonprofit lenders a pool of money, so then they can then loan that money to small businesses in the local community. So that's one program that the SBA has, and it's ongoing. Anybody can use it, whether you're a startup or an existing business. They're a little bit more lenient on credit score, and they can actually work with you with business plan, all your financials, things like that. A lot of times they work in conjunction with the SBDC consultants to help a person get their information so they can then give them a loan on these microloans. So that's the microloan program. 7A is probably our flagship, our biggest used program, and that's for anybody that's just starting a business to businesses that have been, you could be 10, 15, 20 years old and need a loan to expand and grow your business. So that's from $5,000 up to $5 million. Okay, so SBA will back those loans. The way that particular loan program works, we do partner with lenders, and those lenders could be national banks like Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, US Bank. They can be community banks, for example, Tri-County Bank, Bank of Stockton, so there are probably some local banks in the Reading, Shasta area that are also members. Credit unions are also part of that. The way it works is those lenders actually give the borrower the money, and then the SBA backs that loan for the lender. Okay, and what that does, it reduces the risk to the lender. In the event if a borrower defaults on the loan, the SBA pays the lender back up to 85% of the balance of the loan. And by doing that, like I said, it does reduce the risk, and the lenders are able to give more loans to people out there that are either starting or growing a business. That one is widely used. And again, if you need help with that, connect with your local SBDC. They do have consultants that are very familiar with that program, and they can help you with it. The 504 loan program is for businesses that are looking to purchase a building for their business or property for their business or heavy equipment for their business. That one is a specialty type loan. It goes up to 25 years. Normally the borrower only puts in 10% into the venture, SBA puts in 40%, and then a lender would put in 50%. The 504 loans are put together by a certified development company, which we call CDCs. They're nonprofits, and they are the entity that puts that whole package together on behalf of the SBA. Again, the SBDC consultants can help you with that. They're familiar with that. Okay, I'm going to change the slide here. Here's the good part about it. All of those three loans I just talked about are until the end of September, 30 September. This is one really cool thing that SBA is doing. for individuals that are going to get a loan, and it has to be dispersed by the end of before 30 September of this year. SBA will pay 3 months of principal and interest after the loan is fully dispersed, and after any deferments capped at $9,000 per loan per month. Okay, it is subject to funding availability. Borrowers do not need to apply for this debt relief. SBA provides it automatically. So that's a huge savings for individuals that might be in the market for getting a new loan. So if you think you need one, there's still time, depending on the loan size and what you're trying to do, but that's something to look into. The next program we have is the EIDL loan. This one is still ongoing. This is for businesses that have been in operation prior to February of 2020. Okay, so that means you went through the downturn due to COVID. Then you are eligible to get this direct loan from the SBA. If you're a for-profit, the interest rate's 3.75%. If you're a nonprofit, it's 2.75%. Okay, again, eligibility, qualified small businesses, cooperatives, and agriculture enterprises with 500 or fewer employees, as defined as a small business, and it tells you the size standards where to go to see that. This particular program, once you get the funds in your bank account, you have up to 12 months before you have to start making your payments. So you get a 1-year break before you start making your payments. And then when you do start making your monthly payments, those monthly payments are stretched out over 30 years. Okay, so it's really designed to help businesses get the money they need to help them through this period of time. Okay, so that one is still open and it will be to the end of this year. The target EIDL advance. Now, that one is something that if you as a existing small business applied for the EIDL advance last year, so you would have had to apply for it, the SBA has reached out to those individuals to make them whole with the up to the $10,000 amount that we did offer, because we did run out of funds. So they did offer people the funds to get them up to the 10,000 mark. And then on some individual businesses, they did get additional because of the community that they may have been in, that was impacted a little harder than some of the others. So that one, you had to have been, number one, applied for the EIDL advance last year, and then SBA reaches out to you. So that's something that's, it's sort of a closed kind of loop kind of thing. But that one has pretty much concluded also. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, that one is still in operation. So the eligibilities for that you're either a live venue operator or promoter, a theatrical producer, live performing arts organization, motion picture theater operators, museum operators, and the list goes on here. So this is designed to help those entities with an actual grant. Now, to get more information on this, you do have to go to sam.gov and the other links that are here. You can talk with the local SBDCs. Unfortunately, because this is a grant program, we are not able to help or assist people on this except to refer them to sam.gov and the other link, or to work with their local SBDC. Okay, but that is still up and running. We're almost done here, just closing out. So we just want to make people be aware that there has been a lot of fraud going on with a lot of these programs that have been put out into the community. So if you are a victim of it, there's some links here to utilize, and if you suspect something, that there's some links here where you can report it. And personally, I have talked to people in both situations. Okay, so we got this information out to them. Resource contacts, again, The NorCal SBDC is a great resource to go to get some good information, webinars, free assistance. Again, talk to Mr. Walker at the local SBDC there, and they can also work with you individually. We do have the women's business centers. We do have one in the Mount Shasta area up north. We have one in Sacramento. Both the Small Business Development Center and the Women's Business Center, we're given additional funding by the SBA to assist people during this time. So again, utilize those services to help you as you go through this period of time. Again, if you have applied for an EIDL loan through the SBA, here are some helpful links if you need further assistance. And then lastly, the Sacramento District Office email. If you have any questions from us, you can always email Sacramento_districtoffice@sba.gov. And I will be here at the end of this webinar to answer any questions you may have. So that's it for me. I will stop sharing and we can have the next speaker, and I will put myself on mute, but I will be here till the very end if you have any further questions.
Okay, Zach, go ahead. It's all you.
Okay, thanks, David, and thank you, David. So I'm going to present here and share my screen. One moment to get that going. Okay, can you see my screen? Thumbs up. Excellent. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. We are going to take a little bit of time as well to talk about cybersecurity as part of the business recovery series. And what we're going to do, we're not going to spend a lot of time. This is probably about a half-hour presentation here. And this is primarily going to be 10 recommendations to improve your cybersecurity at your business. And if you are not yet familiar with the NorCal SBDC, David, did you want to cover this slide? Do you want me to go for it?
No, in fact, we could probably just skip over that and get right into the heart of the matter if you'd like.
Sure thing. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, David. Okay, so our agenda, we're already kind of digging into these first couple bullet points. So we're going to hit our objectives today and then dig into 10 tried and true tips when it comes to cybersecurity. We'll wrap up, and then if we have time, we should be able to take some questions. And boy, I love when these are conversational. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that today, however, just to make sure that we get through it on time. So if you don't mind, please save your questions for the end, or if you want to type them into the chat box, that's fine as well. And then we can pull on those as we have time. So our objectives here are going to be getting everybody just a better understanding of what the heck is cybersecurity anyway. What are you even talking about with that? And then digging into 10 actionable practical steps to help protect your business from cyber attacks. And we think that no matter where you're at on your journey of cybersecurity, I almost picture, probably because I have a 5-year-old, but I almost picture the Candyland or Chutes and Ladder. You know, you're partway up the board. You've done some of these steps. Well, no matter where you're at on the board, if this were some kind of board game, we do think this would be helpful to you. Okay, unless you are a cybersecurity professional, then hey, yeah, I'm not sure at that point. But so first of all, let's start with the basics. What the heck is this? What is cybersecurity? So just a couple quick definitions here. Cybersecurity is the protection of computer systems and networks from theft or damage to their hardware, software, or data, as well as from the disruption or misdirection of services they provide. So common breaches, I just heard a stat the other day, and I don't want to misquote it. It was something along the lines of every 3 seconds someone gets hacked. Don't quote me on that, but it happens all the time. And studies show that 52% of breaches include hacking, 28% involve malware, and we're going to get into definitions of those as well. Roughly 33% include phishing or social engineering. So why the heck do we even, why do we bother with cybersecurity? Why is this a thing? Well, for small businesses especially, data breaches can actually cause a small business to fail. That happens and happens fairly often. So there's not really such thing as being too careful. And with cybersecurity only getting more and more prevalent, unfortunately, the average cost of a security breach is, the average is over $13 million in recent years. So that's why we pay attention to this, at least enough. So let's dig into the 10 actionable steps. Here they are. In a nutshell, we're going to go over these one by one, spend a couple of minutes on each. Starting with this first one. And step number one would be kind of saying, okay, well, what's the information that we even need to protect in the first place? Because not every business is the same. Some businesses have a great deal of information and some of them have very little or none. So what kind of data does your business collect? Where do you keep that data? What kind of devices, do you need to protect? And, a lot of people don't think about this, but that could include, not only your computers, but it could include your phones. It could include other things that data is on. What about your printer? Things like that. There could be a big pile of personally identifiable information sitting there, right? So what kind of operating system are you using? We want to talk about, like, whatever those machines are where you have that information, right? Are they updated? Are they still being supported? A lot of people are using older computers for their business, which is great from a savings perspective. But if they're not being supported anymore, for example, Windows 7, if you're somehow still on Windows 7, well, that no longer is even being supported as of January of 2020. So that means no more security updates. Well, you kind of have a bullseye on your back, right? Something to think about. Some businesses would say that they use mobile device management, which is software that allows IT administrators to control, secure, and enforce policies on smartphones, tablets, and other endpoints. Some businesses might not need that at all. Some businesses would really benefit from something like that because you don't know what your employees are doing on their phones. For example, if this gal were your employee, does she have a bunch of passwords sitting around to clients' websites and things like that, and she just happens to leave her phone unlocked on a public park bench? Things like that can actually happen. So what kind of software are you using as well? Not only the hardware itself, but we want to make sure to encourage you, hey, with the machines you're using, including your phones and your software, that should really be updated regularly. So if it's QuickBooks, or browsers you're using, antivirus software, et cetera. I mean, what's the point of having antivirus software if you haven't updated it in 3 years, right? So you want to keep your hardware up to date. You want to keep your websites up to date. I own a web design agency, and it's almost the norm when I go into a new client's website and I'm looking at their site and their plugins and things like that. Almost every time they are completely outdated, which is not that big of a deal, except that means they're no longer getting vulnerability and security patches, right? And so if you're really wanting to keep yourself guarded, then that's the reason why you really want to keep those up to date. So for example, if you're a WordPress website owner, you want to make sure that your plugins and WordPress are always being updated and maintained to avoid any kind of unnecessary vulnerabilities. Same thing goes for app users, iOS and Windows also. So I was trained by SBDC's cybersecurity branch, and they would say, hey, even though it could be a tiny bit buggy at first, make sure you always enable auto updates on everything. And, because I know a lot of people who would say, well, we don't want to enable auto updates because you want to wait till they get the kinks worked out. That might take a few weeks. Well, from a cybersecurity perspective, you might want to have those updated as soon as possible. So here's a quick example of that. WordPress needing updated on a website and about 10-ish plugins needing updated there. All right, so step 2, now that you've done that, would be doing a quick security check. How secure are your passwords? Why does that matter? Well, it should matter a lot to you, actually, because using passwords that have any kind of association like your name, your maiden name, your birthday, your favorite food, etc., can be real easy for attackers to guess, and that increases your vulnerability. So it's good to have a strong password. And a lot of times, cybersecurity professionals would say that kind of depends on a couple of things: the kind of characters you're using and the length of the password. So if it's a password that only has letters, that's going to take a fraction of the time for a password cracker to crack compared to passwords of the same length with numbers and syllables. So we would say, hey, try to use a minimum of, at least 3 of these things. If not, why not just go for all 4, right? Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. And we also recommend, we just told somebody this the other day, because their website, it was under attack. We said, everybody should be updating their passwords. You can't just leave them sitting around for years and years. And you really shouldn't be sharing them. You shouldn't be reusing them on different sites. And won't have anybody raise their hands for multiple reasons on that. But boy, it's super common. Almost everybody I work with, I feel like is guilty of these things. No shame, but just something that you could maybe fine tune a little bit, right? Another thing that we recommend is having the ability to lock out of a device or a website. Hey, if you can enable that, great. For example, my mother, she'll leave her phone on and the screen's on. She'll have it sitting on the couch and it's just on indefinitely, where I would recommend have that thing automatically lock out after it's not being used. It's a little annoying, but really ratchets up security. You can do that on your computer as well, of course. We would say consider using a password management tool. I won't go down the rabbit trail of talking about password management tools. They have strengths. They could potentially have a weakness or two as well, but it's something to think about if you have a great deal of passwords. One of the most popular ones would be LastPass. Another one would be Bitwarden. But as you're part of your security check, you want to see if you can, do you know if you've already been in any kind of data breach? So you can see if your email and or password have been compromised by visiting the site. Hopefully we won't lose half of you while I say this, but there's a website you can go to. If you want to, you can go there now. But it's haveibeenpwned.com. That's PWNED. And you can type in your email address or you can type in your password, which I probably wouldn't do. But you can do that and see if it's been part of a data breach. Here's a screenshot of it, okay? Kind of fun, kind of scary. Step number 3 would be, recommendation number 3, I should say, would be control the access of data. Just make sure to restrict the data only to people who need access, right? You don't need everybody to be able to access your website. Don't go giving away the credentials so quickly, right? Or if someone doesn't need them anymore, it's time to probably revoke those. So, just a quick example, like I mentioned, was, I'll go into somebody's website that we're starting to work with, and they have users, admin level users, who they don't even know who they are. And boy, get those things out of there real quick. Those are liabilities in our eyes. Already mentioned inactive device locking. And another great way to ratchet up security really quick and control access would be enable 2-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. This is getting more and more popular. It's all over the place, but it's annoying and it takes an extra step. It might take a few extra seconds, but that greatly increases security, okay? Number 4, I'm going to try to speed it up a tiny bit just so we make it through all 10 here, but to implement scheduled backups. This is really helpful in protecting against what's called ransomware, which is something that it's an attack where all the files on a system are encrypted and can no longer be used. It's kind of like, they're taken for ransom, and an attacker would demand a ransom to unlock those files, and they're probably not going to give them back if they actually do get paid. Studies show. But so what kind of backups can you do in addition to scheduled backups on your computer? You can have kind of different levels of that. Of course, you can back up your website. You can do a full system backup of your computer where it's an exact copy of your computer, including all system files. This is obviously the big guns right here. There's also a file level backup where you're just backing up only user generated files that uses a lot less space. There's an incremental backup, which just kind of scans the system and checks to see what's changed. There's also, of course, different kinds of website backups, which we really, really recommend, not only for security, but also from the development standpoint, just to make sure that you're backing up your site regularly. If you're a WordPress owner, I would say the most popular plugin for that would be Updraft Plus. A lot of hosts, if you're a website owner, a lot of hosts do that automatically also. It's a good thing to know. Number 5 would be, if you don't already, we encourage you to get antivirus and anti-malware software. I'm going to talk about the difference really quick, but we do encourage you to protect computers and phones with antivirus and anti-malware software. So define those real quick, because sometimes people don't go, they might say, I don't know what malware even means. So McAfee would say, here's what malware means. It's a catch-all term for any kind of malicious software, regardless of how it works, its intent, how it's distributed. A virus is a specific type of malware that self-replicates by inserting its code into other programs. Computer viruses have been prominent since almost the beginning of the commercial internet, first one being in 1982 for the Apple II, and other ones quickly followed. And so some companies are going to need something more advanced than antivirus software. If that's the case, if you're saying, hey, we need more than that, there is something called endpoint protection or network intrusion detection. They're commercial grade products that monitor not just devices, but the actual network traffic, and that can even help stop attacks before they even happen. Misconception along these lines of the antivirus topic would be that Apple is more secure than Windows. A lot of people say that, or at least they used to say that. Unfortunately, the truth is that's no longer the case, and here's why. So Apple's products, they used to be more secure, but they've, Apple's kind of got this huge cult-like following nowadays, right? And it's not like Apple's just this minor little section of the audience. Now there's a ton of Apple users, and eventually attackers found it more lucrative to spend time developing malicious codes that would affect the majority of computers, right? Why would they focus on the minority? So that, and with the development of Windows 10, where Windows security has come a long way, it's brought Windows to the level of Apple. So just to kind of wrap up this point, Apple devices are just as likely to be attacked nowadays. Just because you have an Apple or a Mac doesn't mean that you don't need to worry about this, okay? I did mention a little bit about endpoint protection. So if you have a more advanced business, you need something more sophisticated, and antivirus or anti-malware just isn't enough. There is endpoint protection, as I mentioned, and that is essentially software that sends all computer activity to a backend server cluster. It does anomaly detection, vulnerability analysis, intrusion detection, active response reporting, historical analysis and statistics, and more to make sure that new threats are detected, hopefully, and personnel are notified. And large businesses use these quite often to ensure their operational and data security. So with this, like an antivirus software that you have in your computer, vulnerability scanning looks for known threats, but before a threat is even present. And so it's performed by security consultants and penetration testers to detect weak spots in your network. So some people will say, well, I have a firewall, so I don't need to use that. Well, the SBDC cybersecurity department would beg to differ and say, well, yeah, but firewalls offer something that they would consider more of a dumb protection. No offense, firewalls. But while some of those have active response features. Firewalls generally just block and allow whatever the user configures them to block and allow. So they don't look for threats. They don't notify personnel about anomalies. The reporting is, we would say, an essential feature for network security analysis to determine if network usage has changed, because that could indicate compromise. So number 6, we would encourage you to educate your staff in cybersecurity. If you have employees, they should be trained regularly on cybersecurity best practices, maybe upon hire, maybe annually, maybe as needed. Definitely encourage them to, or more, require them to use multi-factor authentication, string passwords, encryption, whenever possible at least. And you might encourage them to just have really good common sense when checking their email. And that seems so minimal, but that could actually go a lot further than you would expect. So this doesn't have to mean reduced productivity and operational costs. We actually think that it could mean quite the opposite. And training them could really save your company big bucks if they just understand some simple things, even like phishing or whaling. Phishing you've probably heard of, where it's the human element being the weakest to any security policy. And boy, how many people do you know that fell for some kind of phishing scam? I can think of some. So one wrong click into an email, that could have disastrous results for a small business. I know David was just talking about it about 10 minutes ago, how that's even a thing with people clicking through emails and whatnot. But yeah, so there's email phishing. There's something called vishing, smishing, spear phishing. You can test yourself. Here's another fun thing to do. If you're bored, go to phishingquiz.withgoogle.com. It looks like this. And this would be a fun thing to run your staff through, just to see, hey, how are they doing? Do they pass this test or not? So step 7, know who to call if you have an issue. So if you do have some kind of data breach, you might want to not wait until that moment to know who you're going to call, right? So you're going to need to have some kind of incident response team, if possible, probably made up of relevant personnel, not someone who has no idea about this kind of thing. So in most cases, a small business owner like you probably wear a lot of hats. And so you might want to have someone who is a little bit more specialized in this area, or at least knows something more about it. You might not need to have someone on retainer, but at least know who to call. And number 8 would be know how to respond. So 7 was know who to reach out to. Number 8 would be know how to respond, right? So you need to know how to contain an event if something is to happen. Make sure to not turn off your machine, but instead you can unplug it from the network. So that way, in other words, if I was under attack right now, I don't want to shut off my computer, but I do want to disconnect from the internet to take their access away, right? And I don't want to shut off my computer so it can be looked at by professionals, right? So they can take a look and see if they can find anything. So there are digital forensics. Investigations of this nature are very specialized. They require expertise a business might not have in-house, I'm willing to guess. And so also part of this is putting the pieces back together. How do you ensure your actions are going to help your company prevent harm to its reputation? That can be a huge thing. And what kind of legal responsibilities do you have? And the size of data breach and the type of data taken determine what your legal responsibilities are. So in the event of a breach, your first call should be to legal support, an attorney that has knowledge of breach response and remediation. And you do need to be aware of what your state and federal laws are. And that will help protect you in the event of a breach. Of course, part of this is going to be managing your brand. And, if your customers find out that they weren't notified by you and they find out some other way, well, they might not be such loyal customers after that, right? Something to think about. So you would want to be timely, open, honest, and accurate when making public announcements. And any kind of lessons learned would be part of the last thing you're going to want to do, I would say, at the tail end. Incorporate any kind of lessons you learned into your security program going forward, of course. But there are state and local resources, and you can consider identifying, what are those local resources that can help me with this. You can also potentially contact the FBI's field office, who can help with breaches. California happens to have an e-crime unit that handles data breaches in excess of 500 people. By law, a breach of any size requires that a business reports to the exposed. Okay, number 9, almost done. How are we doing on time? Doing okay. Create a plan. So we're starting to get the beginnings of a plan put together, and we can help you get more of a plan together if you want. I'll talk about it here. So you can have precise controls, you can have policies in place, you can look like this guy, hopefully do better than this guy and get something together. But we have something called a data assured workbook. That's right, the SBDC cybersecurity branch created a data assured workbook that we can get you if you want. It's built off the NIST framework. What's that? That's the National Institute of Standards of Technology Cybersecurity framework. It's a written information security program. So it's basically a workbook where we talk you through the steps and we help you fill in the blanks. Okay, and it offers small business guidance in there as well. It's simple, but it does cover everything that we think needs to be included, and it's fully customized. So it's not just a PDF that's just going to sit on your desktop or in some folder. No, you actually would fill it out, and you can keep that as your working plan for your small business. Okay, step 10, optional, but possible if you want. You can consider obtaining cyber insurance, okay? So this would cover a business's liability for a data breach involving sensitive customer information. And a good first step would be to, well, you probably already have business insurance. You're probably required to have it. Reach out to your insurance provider and talk to them and say, hey, what's covered in the area of cyber insurance, if anything, and what we're already paying for. So many general liability or professional liability policies include basic cyber liability coverage, but probably not all. Okay, that's a good thing to be aware of before an attack happens, right? So consult with your insurance provider on whether additional insurance might be necessary. You can get first-party liability coverage, or you can get third-party liability coverage. And that's all I'll say about that. So I did leave some time. Those are our 10 tips. At this point, we've outlined some basic things you should understand about cybersecurity for your company. Those are actionable, practical steps that should help you. Reach out to us if you want these slides, or if you want that workbook. We're happy to provide that to you. This should be a good foundation for you to go ahead and protect your company at least quite a bit more in the area of cybersecurity. And we do understand, hey, this is going to take some effort, but we want to encourage you that this isn't actually, it's not rocket science. It's not too difficult. And we're willing to help you at the cost of $0, of course. So feel free to reach out, and we're happy to link you up with an advisor. We can help you out with that workbook. We can probably answer any questions that you have, and we'll have some time for some questions now as well. And if there's any that we can't handle in here, then we would instead just take them to our cybersecurity department to get them answered, okay? I think that's it. So if you have any questions, as David and I sometimes will tell people, you have to raise your hand just like that with a pen in it, or else we won't answer them. I'm just kidding. David, if you want to take any questions, and then
Sure.
We'll be ready for any questions on the SBA stuff as well.
We'll be sending everybody copies of the slides from Zack's slides and from David Castaneda's slides, and we'll be sending you a link to this recording. The other thing I want to mention is that we're part of the Shasta-Cascade SBDC, Small Business Development Center in Northern California, out of Redding, Shasta County. But if you're not from here, we get, for these webinars, we're getting people from all over. Guaranteed, there's an SBDC near you. There's nearly 1,000 of them across the country, 1,000 different centers nearly. So contact them. They can help you with any cybersecurity questions or any other questions or issues with your small business. And remember, it's free to you. You've already paid for it actually with your tax dollars. So that's there for you. I do have one question here regarding ransomware. If you have your files saved on something like Google Drive or MS Office in the cloud from, that Office allows, does that provide any protection from ransomware?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and well, you're right on target. That's exactly what we do. That's exactly what my team and I do. We back up all the files that we need to off of our devices. And we happen to use Dropbox. We're not saying that we're affiliated or we would recommend one over the other. If you're happy with Google Drive or whatever you're using, great. That way, yeah, if someone did attack you with ransomware, you could say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to pay that. And then you have your files and you can put them onto another device. So they're out of luck, and you still have your files. So yeah, that's a great thing. You're right on target with that.
Okay. Don't see any questions in the chat at the moment. If any of you do have any questions, put them in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself if you can.
Zach, I have a question. This is David
Sure.
Castaneda with SBA. I'm curious, a lot of small businesses use those point of sale type systems. Are those vulnerable to being hacked, or do they have to worry about security on those? Do you know?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And to make sure, I'm willing to bet that they're all created equal. I'm sure they all have their different strengths and weaknesses in that category. I think it would probably depend on exactly which one, and that's probably going to be quite specific to that kind of device. But I think to get you a better answer, if you wanted one, that we would connect you with our cybersecurity branch, where they would be able to give you a much better answer than I just gave you. So.
Okay, but there, I guess it sounds like somebody can possibly look at to see if there's any vulnerability in your system. Okay,
Yeah.
and then on the same note, with a lot of small businesses, let's say they're at an event and they're selling, whether it's food or products, things like that, and they're using their cell phone and they're taking, a customer's credit card and they're swiping it through a Square or whatever device. Same question. How secure is that for not only the business owner, but for the customer as well? Is there anything?
Yeah,
that
is such a good question. Yeah, to be honest, that's another one I would say our cybersecurity branch would know the exact answer to that. And I'm sure they would say, well, what specific, is it a Square, or is it this, or is it that? What are they using, and what kind of phone do they have? And, I think they would probably get pretty granular with you on that, but they could certainly speak to that, where I probably, that's a little bit out of my area of expertise personally.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We have, I'll read the crux of this, by the way, but before I do that, I'm sorry, I'm a little scattered here. I apologize for that. That's the way I live my life, scattered. To get the workbook that Zach was talking about, go ahead and contact us by email. You can contact me directly. We'll have the contact information here. It's david@norcalsbdc.org. We'll be sending you an email, though. Just respond to that, and we'll make sure that you get the workbook if you want it. And if you want to have a cybersecurity SBDC advisor, expert type person. If you want to consult with somebody like that, we can help with that. And we have another question here. Does having Express, the idea is this, and I hope it's okay that I read this. If I use Chromebook when visiting a client's retail store, and I need to use the neighboring store's Wi-Fi protocol with their portal with their permission, does having ExpressVPN on the Chromebook offer adequate protection while accessing online banking, etc.? And if not, would connecting the Chromebook via my cell phone be better?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can speak to that at least a little bit. Am I cutting you off?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, so I think that you do have a lot of protection going on there if you are using passworded Wi-Fi connections. I would say any kind of unsecured network, I would say you're definitely at risk. During our training with cybersecurity, we got to watch a little bit on and talk a little bit about how devices can be compromised when you're using non-secure Wi-Fi. And so I would say it's going to come quite a bit down to what kind of connection are you on. And if you're on someone's, secured connection and it's passworded, then I think you're probably going to be okay. If you're just kind of borrowing someone's house internet or something like that, I would say, boy, I would be real careful with that. I personally would not do that because there are people who use port scanning and they will check to see what they can. They can access you fairly easily if you're on a non-secured Wi-Fi connection. That's a huge vulnerability risk. So depends. I hope that's helpful to you.
I put a link to an evaluation in the chat. What that is, for all the workshops, all the webinars we do, we ask for your feedback. We ask how we did. We ask what kind of topics you would prefer that we present. And please be honest. We have thick skin. We can take it. And so please be, completely honest. And going back to what you just mentioned there, Zach, follow-up question. It says, doesn't the VPN protect you?
Yeah, I know that offers additional protection, but how much, I personally don't know. Again, not to keep defaulting to them, but if we needed to get a more granular answer, our cybersecurity department would be able to speak to that in greater detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't see anything else in the chat. Just be sure. Let's see. Things moved. Okay, never mind. Do we have the final slide there, Zach, with contact information?
Let's see here. This one or this one? Is this what you're looking for?
Well, I need a different internet provider. I'm still seeing any final questions, but at any rate.
Okay. Talking about the SBDC services slide.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. No, we'll send you a link to the recording, and hopefully the recording looks better than what I'm saying. But you will be getting an email from us with the contact information for us. You'll be getting copies of the slides. We'll also include how to get the workbook, a link to this recording, and a link to the evaluation, and we hope you fill it out. Beyond that, if there aren't any other questions, I think we can have 5 minutes to ourselves. If we have bosses that we said we'd be gone for the full hour, we have 5 minutes to goof around. How about that? All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll end it at that and be looking for the email, and please do respond to the SurveyMonkey evaluation. Take care, everybody.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Bye, everybody.